Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I have not one but two outstanding guests that I can't wait to introduce. Now, if you know anything about me or my family, then you know that we have a soft spot for female entrepreneurs. I come from a long line of strong-willed women, and particularly women that own businesses. So when I got the chance to book this mother-daughter super success combo that you're about to meet, I was excited about it because it reminded me of my grandmother Inez and her sister Aunt Myra, who were, business owners long before it became fashionable to be a female business owner in Ponchatoula, and my mom, who owned an antique shop when I was a kid, right there on Pine Street. So it was really exciting to bring out these two wonderful women, and that is Suzette Callais and her daughter, Callie Hines. Suzette, Callie, welcome to the show. How are you, ladies?
We're doing great. Good. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for coming on. As I mentioned, I've been so excited about getting you guys on because, I just love everything I've seen from you. I mean, Suzette, you and I were in the Rotary Club, and I got to know you a little bit there. And Callie, I got to know you a little bit when you first opened your coffee shop. Unfortunately, I'm the only Layrisson that doesn't drink coffee. So, so that made me particularly excited when you open, Pappy's Stowaway Cafe, because although I don't drink much coffee, as you can tell, I do eat a lot of po' boys and gumbo and hamburgers and all that good stuff y'all make. So it's really neat to have y'all with a great restaurant 2 blocks from my house on 8th Street. So why don't we begin, before we get into your success in business and all of that, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Why don't you go first, Mom?
Well, I'm originally from Buras, Louisiana, and our family happened to choose to move to Ponchatoula 10 weeks before Hurricane Katrina hit.
Wow.
So, yeah, we were very blessed to be able to do that. And when we moved here,
did you guys have a crystal ball or something? Because that's some.
A lot of people told me that. They were like,
well, if you did, you'd be in Memphis or somewhere, right? You go a little farther up.
But. That's a whole nother story, Parker.
So 10 weeks before Katrina. Wow, what a great time to get out of Plaquemines Parish. That was great timing.
Yeah, and although, all of the loss, it's not the same as it used to be. But what the fortunate thing is that moving into Ponchatoula, it was a lot like home. And then after the storm, a lot of the people that live down there and live in this area now, and that's one of my favorite things. To talk, through that we get to see a lot of people from down in Plaquemines Parish. I was there for 33 years, so that was my life. My family was there for over 100 years. So for us to move, it was big, but it was a sign that God gave us. And
well, that part of the world's always been special to me because of the Scanduro family. And of course, most of our viewers probably know or knew of CJ Scanduro. CJ's Antiques and Collectibles is one of the most successful and well-liked businesses in town.
Yeah, CJ was actually a great friend of my grandfather, Pappy, which we
really? Well, tell me about that. I was law partners with his nephews. My brother, Jean-Paul's long time been partners with his nephew. And I had his nephew, Tim, up as my guest at Rotary a few weeks ago. Tell us about that family connection and some of the other folks that you guys brought up this way to Ponchatoula that came later.
Mr. CJ beat us here. Him and Mr.
Right.
My mom and Mr. CJ went to school together, and he was just always a well-noted, person. Everybody knew him. He's always in antiques. And then Miss Mary, with everybody, and now looking at her art, the way, she's been able to enhance.
She's so amazing.
Lives, very talented. Yeah. But our lives were just always better with Mr. CJ because he was just,
he was really great to my grandfather. Yes. My grandfather had Alzheimer's. When we moved here, actually right after Katrina, we really realized that he was forgetting. And CJ never lost that friendship with my grandfather, no matter how much he forgot. He'd go sit up there and drink coffee with all the guys. I'm sure we've all walked into CJ's at one point or another.
Absolutely. He was serving coffee in Ponchatoula long before you were. So you had a good mentor there. Well, he was certainly one of the finest men to ever walk the streets of Ponchatoula. And he made a big impression on me. I'll never forget how happy he was to see me open up this little law office in Ponchatoula, half a block away. I literally parked on his land behind Andy Edwards' old law office. And he was just so good to me. He made me call him Uncle CJ because of the family connection there. And really did. He literally treated me like one of his own nephews. And I know he did that for everybody. Sounds like he treated your family like that too. And I learned a great lesson with him about, you never know what tomorrow holds. And he was one of the very first people I asked to be on this show, and he wanted to do it. He planned to do it, but we just couldn't get the timing right. And sadly, we'll never get that chance. So I learned a lesson. That was one of many lessons he taught me. He was a great man, but he was kind of the George Washington of that Buras area to Ponchatoula move.
Absolutely.
And it's neat that he set a trend, because you guys have been such great additions to the community. So Suzette, we're learning a little bit about your background, 33 years down there. Do you want to tell us about the next chapter? Do you want to pass the torch over to Callie a little bit to hear about her?
She's busting out the singing solo.
I gotta admit, although she minded her manners there, because I was surprised to see that she let mom go first.
I know, me too.
Knowing the personalities.
I have to let her go first because I'll talk the rest of the time. But no, really, when we moved up here, it was a fresh start, and mom had her business. And after a while of having the business on Main Street, especially for you florists, she went and worked out at Rosaryville, spent a few years there. And then Emily, my youngest sister, got diagnosed with leukemia and was sent to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital to receive treatment, where we spent a year. And then I ended up staying in Memphis for about 3 years working for St. Jude. And
oh, wow.
That was some of the most life-changing experiences that I had at St. Jude, just being able to work alongside these amazing people, trying to, fulfill this mission that Danny Thomas had set forth for us. And so about 3 years into working at St. Jude, I decided I was ready to come home and bring what I had learned from such a special community back to ours. And what a better way to do that than to do it over a cup of coffee, right?
Great point. And what a great foundation, because obviously St. Jude's mission is the best in the world, right? I mean, there's nothing more important. And you guys know that far better than I. You lived it. But it seems to me, from the cheap seats as a mere donor, to be one of the best run organizations in the world. I mean, they put the money where it needs to be. I mean, everybody I know that heads up there just, says such great things about the way they're treated. Can you tell us about what it meant to you to work somewhere like that, especially having been on the end as a sister, as a mama? What was that connection like for you guys, and what were the takeaways, the lessons you learned that you brought back here to Ponchatoula?
Leadership. St. Jude runs like a very well-oiled machine, and it is mostly in part of the amazing care that they put into their employees. And knowing that when we're working at St. Jude, we were working towards something far greater than just ourselves. Having the ability to be able to work alongside some of the most important people in the organization, such as the CEO and the chief marketing officer. It was always so great. And I had the easy job. I got to work with the celebrities. I was part of the entertainment marketing team, and part of my job was coordinating visits to the hospital with the celebrities and, garnering their support. And it was always just amazing to see what we could accomplish when we all came together. And I wanted that to be brought back here to a business around here, because really when we work together, when we work hand in hand, when we listen to one another, that's when true changes are made. That's when we can be greater than anything we ever imagined.
Right.
And as far
well,
as
I've posted here for folks that are, I'm sorry, Suzette, please go. I just wanted to mention that we have posted here the link to St. Jude's website. So if anybody here is watching, wants to learn more, or has the ability to donate, please give this a look. It's such an important organization. But Suzette, I'm so sorry I interrupted you. Please tell us what you were about to say.
As a mother and living in this community, and even the community in Plaquemines Parish, it was just so overwhelming with the support that we received financially and prayerfully, and just knowing that people were there for us. And I used to tell people, when I'd walk around St. Jude while Emily was getting treatments, if she needed something, and I wasn't even walking on the ground because of the prayers that people were, that we could feel. We could actually feel ourselves lifted off the ground. And we
Wow.
couldn't have asked to live in a better place for not being here that long. As Kelly Wells calls us, he calls us come here's, you know, because he says that's what y'all call it.
Kelly's about as old school Ponchatoula as it gets. What I love about that, because he's the one guy who can say something like that, but you'll keep a smile on your face and love him for it, right?
Right.
He's got a very unique charm.
Yes.
As you can see here, I've presented up on the screen here a visual of the St. Jude website that there's the link to there.
Doctors there, Dr. Pooey just now that you showed.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Well, so Callie, you mentioned working with celebrities there. How is it different from the glitz glamour of, national and international celebrities, doing business with them and taking those leadership lessons that you mentioned from St. Jude's and coming down here to Ponchatoula, where we've got some neat local celebrities, right?
Yeah.
But it's not Hollywood. What are some key differences you've seen?
Yeah, she said, Mom, I just had lunch with Drew Barrymore. And I'm like, really, Callie?
I think what always amazed me was how humbling it felt. Celebrities are people.
Right.
And the kids at St. Jude always made you feel special. Because you knew that they were going through some of the toughest times of their life, but regardless of what was going on, there was these little 3-year-old bald babies running around just so content and so happy with life. And I think that's when I called my mom and I told her that I was moving home. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any plans. I just knew I needed to be back here because something was calling me to be here and to share with people that this town has something special about it. No matter what we've been through, we always seem to be able to put a smile on our faces, pull up our boots and get back to work and do what needs to get done to make everyone's life a little bit better. And I think if more of the world was like that, and if we could share that with the world, that, everyone would be a lot better off.
Amen.
Kindness, and I feel like I worked for St. Jude as a form of thanks for saving my sister's life.
Right.
And I had to come back and do the same for our community, for everything that they've done for us.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, speaking of community, your mom has been one of the best servants in this community since she's come to town. Like as I mentioned earlier, we served in the Rotary Club together. She was always one of the first people to step up, volunteer, do what needs to be done, whether it's glitzy and glamorous or not. Suzette, you're one who dig in, get your hands dirty, do what it takes. Tell us about where.
Well, when we moved here, the PTA was one of my best ways. My oldest daughter, Lindsay, would just started Ponchatoula High School, and to have, like Tammy Earls and Rose Dominguez and Chris Cohey and, all
wonderful women
were the first people I met, and are my dearest friends now. And it was just that I was always part of the community in Buras. So when I came here and we were so accepted, I just wanted to give back. And that's what I live for, and in business also, between the flower shop and the coffee shop and now the package and Rosaryville, it was always, what can we do for our community? What can we do to make things better, a better place to live and play and eat and drink and, whatever.
Sure.
And my kids, it was the best move I've ever made as far as because of the timing. This is the closest to what I was raised as in Buras, which was a great life that I had there. This was the closest to where I could give my children. And now I have 2 grandchildren that, hopefully will experience the same thing. They live in this area also.
The small town raising.
Yeah. And clearly you pass down those values to your daughters, right? I think those of us who get to watch Callie do a business see that same approach, right? Callie, what would you say to echo what your mom said? I don't want to speak for you. It does seem like you've picked up a lot of the same values.
So
would you agree with that and probably added some of your own flair to it? Tell us about that.
My mom has just always been this person that no matter what was presented to her, she could take it and make it into something beautiful. I think that's what has transformed me as a person into who I am today. Just knowing that you work hard and you provide for your family and you do whatever it takes, because we only have this much time here. And
Amen.
regardless of how, we feel, or, how another person makes us feel, it's always important that we remember our purpose. And I think a lot of people struggle to find their purpose. But my mom always made it so easy, because we could be whoever we wanted to be. We could do whatever we wanted to do. And she always pushed us and encouraged us to do those things. And I've always been glued to my mother's hip from the time I was very, very young. I'm definitely a mama's girl. So just being able to prove to her every day that she has, taught me what I needed to learn, and just listening to her guidance. People ask me all the time, how do you do all of it? How do you get everything done? I'm like, I do what my mama tells me to do. Everybody's life's a lot simpler that way.
Right. Mama knows. Well, Suzette, when you hear Callie talk about drawing inspiration from you and finding her purpose, clearly, you succeeded in not in instilling that in her, but by example. What guided you toward finding your purpose and following your purpose and having the courage to set off on that path? I mean, when you look back,
my parents were the greatest parents that, always welcome everybody in their home, no matter what their color, what they believe, anything.
Right.
We were open door. So, I'd call mom and say, that's what the days, back in the day, Parker, you could go home for lunch when you were a senior, and I'd call her and say, Mom, we got an extra 6 people. And she'd just add some more water to whatever stew.
Right.
And
pour some water in the beans.
Dad loved everybody truly, deeply. They taught us to love unconditionally, and that if you're not part of doing service in your community, you miss out a part of life, because they always, my dad was cutting grass, at the church, and my mom
while he was working, turnarounds at the plant and running a shrimp boat. That man, he was just, the possibilities within him, it was endless. He could build something out of nothing. He could make you laugh. He could cook you dinner.
Well, Miss Faye Ivaninsky nails it here in the comments. Great family, hardworking, and that's what you're describing. I mean, it sounds like a super hardworking man, but with great family values.
Yes.
And you mentioned grandkids there, right? And so you're talking about looking back and what you learned from your parents, Suzette. What's some advice you're giving your kids as grandkids come on the scene and you see them step up into parental roles? What are the first and foremost kind of guiding lights you've passed down so far?
Well, my oldest daughter is married and has the 2 young girls. We have lots of girls in our family. And so, I watch, Lindsay and her husband. Like, Lindsay is the school teacher at Hammond Westside, and has just been asked to be the Beta Club sponsor, because she shows her love for her community and for the children, and the drama and the arts with Miss Kay Butler, ignited that long time ago. And so
what a wonderful woman she was.
Oh my gosh. I mean, her and the whole Vallow family and all.
Oh, the Vallows are the best. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Amazing people. And that's the thing, is I think that all of those people over time is what has given us the courage and the encouragement and everything to feel like we were part of Ponchatoula. I know we weren't born here, but we feel this is our home.
Right.
So that's because of the people that are here, though.
Absolutely. I've never felt more at home than pulling, myself up to the bar at Paul's Cafe and just ordering a Western omelet.
Speaking of great families and multi-generation work ethic, success, and family values, that's it. We had Mr. Reggie on the show a few weeks ago, a month ago, maybe. We've talked off air about, our mutual love of that man. He's the best, right? But he and Miss Aresta and all the many, many kids, grandkids, I mean, boy, do they proliferate. But you can't go to I was going over to First Baptist Church today on my lunch break to help set up for the Strawberry Castle graduation, which is tomorrow. And there was one of his grandkids at 19 up there helping out, volunteering. And, that I see you guys share that same service oriented heart. And, Suzette, you and I as Rotarians, the club motto is service above self, right?
Yes.
Clearly you guys were living that in your family long before you joined the Rotary. That's not something you picked up in a club. It sounds like maybe
Well,
you
again,
found a
when I was
club.
in Plaquemines Parish, I always wanted to be in Rotary Club, but women.
Oh, really?
So my
Well, we've
mom
got somebody.
joined Rotary and then became the president of Rotary. So, we don't ever
Right.
halfway.
It's look, that club's special to me. My mom was the first female president, so I know she was happy to see you carry on that tradition, and you did a great job. We couldn't have been luckier to have you.
You did a great job.
As you can see here,
too, so.
okay. Deborah Hines here says hey to you too. She's chiming in.
Hey, Debbie, Deb.
Deb, thanks for joining us here.
All the way from Arkansas.
Oh wow, that's that. We're getting some spread here. I thought Ponchatoula Live was just local, but man, we're hitting Arkansas. That's interesting. I never take the time to look at our demographics and figure out whether we have an expanded reach. But you guys are bringing us across state lines. So thanks for spreading it out. Well, tell us this. Tell us about this interest in business, because as I said at the top of the show, I really admire you guys as entrepreneurs. You've run several very successful businesses, and right now you're kicking butt with multiple businesses going at the same time. And talk about hustle. You're up serving coffee early in the morning, boiling crawfish all day, making just wonderful food. I mean, we were talking about the gumbo off air before you came on, but tell us about what kind of lit that entrepreneurial fire where you said, not only do I want to serve my community, but I want to own a business myself and kind of see that mission through. Where did that come from?
It comes from a heart of service, honestly, because of course we can go around volunteering all day, every day, and with all of these amazing organizations. But we thought, what is a way that we can come into our community and not just meet with the people day in and day out and, bring love and light into their lives, but also be able to turn around and, possibly in the future financially help the community and be able to serve our community in a greater way. We didn't grow up rich. We didn't have money. I mean, like I said, my grandfather worked.
I knew that when you told me you were from Buras, I think that's a giveaway. When I tell folks I'm from Ponchatoula, they know I'm not rich.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we, as the children, never wanted for anything, and that was because of who my mom is. My mom always would pull long hours, do extra events, do whatever she had to do, work at the church, to make those extra dollars for us to be able to do biddy ball and be able to do drama camp and be able to do lessons. And I know that there are people out there that no matter how hard they're trying, still struggle to make ends meet. So of course, the pipe dream is being able to open a homeless center in Hammond one day. That would be a homeless co-op where we would run a hotel and have rooms for the homeless people to live in and be able to work at the hotel. So gaining job experience while making a paycheck. And, I have grand dreams about, my future and the future of our community. And I believe that it starts here.
Thank God you do, because we need that. I mean, you see the growing homeless community. I mean, I think it's always been around here. People maybe didn't know it, didn't see it. But, it's tough to get on or off the interstate sometimes, on 55 without seeing some homeless folks.
Well,
So
my first job out of
it's
college,
here and it's not going anywhere. We need to serve that community.
Yeah, my first job out of college was with the Fuller Center for Housing with Tamara Donnell. It's my leader, and you have no choice but to learn from that woman. She doesn't give you a choice.
She's amazing.
Like, you're going to learn this, and we're all going to be happy about it. And I always was, it was her that showed me what kind of issues we have in the parish and how we need to lean in and step up, not as just women, but as a community to be able to make the differences. And growing up Catholic, we have a great love for Mother Mary. And I think that throughout our lives, especially my grandma has always taught us that love of a mother through Mary's eyes. And I think that every day we just try to, exemplify what that love, that motherly love is. And that just means embracing, everyone, embracing your community, embracing those who need a job, embracing those who want to learn. And that's what these businesses give us the opportunity to do. Take people in and let them feel good about earning what they need to survive, but also teaching them skills that go past this job.
Right. I mean, right now we have about 30 to 35 employees. And I mean, a lot of these employees, really needed a break. They had been through COVID, it's not an ideal time to open a business. But
Amen.
God presented
especially a restaurant. Wow, y'all
exactly.
you picked a tough time.
We had some great support. Mr. Ed Hoover owns the building, and he was
great
very
man.
supportive. Steve Pugh came in and he helped us get started.
One of my lifelong heroes. Steve's a great guy.
So much.
Yeah.
So we're trying, but at the end of the day, it's hard. We need more business. It's
Amen.
hard.
Well, you mentioned that, and I'm gonna post a comment here. My dear friend Mike Williams, he says here that he's got big admiration for anyone in the restaurant business, especially now. It's a tough deal. Nobody knows that better than Mike. He and his wife Emily own numerous Subway restaurants for decades.
Yep.
And
I love Mike.
I mean, y'all, so do I. I mean, he and Emily are two of my favorite people on the planet. And I mean, it's so much of what you said is, plays out of the Williams family playbook because they've done the same thing. But you're right about
I sat down with Mr. Mike and had a cigar and some whiskey.
Neat. But I mean, I think about how many little league teams and high school teams and you name it, how many homeless people have the Williams family fed through their restaurant, and it was a grind. They were able to put two beautiful girls through college who are now raising babies and getting married and doing all that too. But it's a really hard life. But it allows you not only to pay your bills, and not only to serve in the Rotary Club, as Mike's done, like you, but also to use your business as a vehicle to help others. You can, I mean, you mentioned the church, right? You can literally get out there and feed the masses like Jesus did, well, not like, not miraculous, but you get my drift here.
3 loaves of bread into enough to feed all of Ponchatoula, but Mike Timer does make multiple stops when we get our business.
Right. So, Mike, thank you for tuning in. Please give my best to Emily. I hope you guys are kicking butt, and I hope you're getting a little rest. I know you're working hard as a super successful realtor, but I hope you're getting a little rest now that y'all are outside that restaurant business. A few other people have chimed in here, and I want to share this with you ladies. Mark Verbois, who y'all know is probably knows the guest host here when I'm out. He's a great broadcaster, a good friend of mine. He mentions what a great family you are and how happy Ponchatoula is to have you. And then, boy, speaking of old school, this woman could call Kelly Wells, a Johnny come lately in Ponchatoula. Patsy Kraft.
The queen of Ponchatoula, because she is. Definitely.
She is. I dare any viewer to, speak ill of Miss Patsy Kraft. I want to be there to see the repercussions if you do that, because
one of her little family members works for us over at Pappy's and at Stowaway, and he is just any rants and raves, tangy, foodies, whatever you look at.
Right.
It mentions him at least twice because he's such a, the people love the crafts. So everybody loves little Dylan behind the bar mixing the coffee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then Miss Patsy, she sports around all of our shirts, except she's got the little scallops on it. She's got.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know that. Yeah. That's her trademark. Yeah. I mean, well, Miss Patsy and my dad were classmates at PHS, so we go way back, and I've had a front row seat to her for my entire life, and it's been a trip, man. I love her. Well, and if anybody's watching, speaking of female entrepreneurs, Miss Patsy makes the best jelly on the planet of Earth.
Grows the most beautiful gladiolas.
Oh my God, so many wonderful things you could say about her and her family. But I got to say this: if you haven't tried her Mayhaw jelly, you're missing out on. Okay. They're all great, but boy, she's something. Miss Patsy, thank you for watching. I love you and Lisa and the whole gang. Y'all are wonderful. Sandra here says that she's been there twice to your restaurant. Great food. Very happy to have you in Ponchatoula. Sandra, thank you for tuning in. And Mike Williams, who's with his grandson as we speak, says he remembers the bourbon and cigar, Callie. So you guys made an impression.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah. Well, do this. Tell us about some other people in your life. We've talked about your parents. We've talked about, your siblings and grandchildren and all that. Who are other people that are important to you in your life?
Well, I would have to say one of the most influential people besides my grandparents would have to be my second mom, Linda. She has always just encouraged us to do whatever we believe. She's also our business partner, and I think every day she pushes us to be the best versions of ourselves as possible. She works over at Gabriel's, as an office manager, and
that's a whole nother good family there.
Oh, talk about a great family business that supports this community. Kevin Cravetto was talking about the Gabriels in Sunday school this weekend about how much they've donated. Just wonderful business, and all the people that work there. Mark Verboy, so I mentioned earlier, his dad worked there for ages. It's no coincidence that they keep employees forever. That's because it's like a family over there. They know their stuff. They do great work, and they're generally just great people at Gabriel's.
And they've been supportive to her in doing this new business venture with us again, besides the coffee shop. So, I mean, that has been a very big help. She's our financial person.
She's my number one fan too. So not always have to pop around. Go Callie,
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
But another neat thing is that like in our restaurant, Linda's family and our family, is the personalization of the pictures and we
all grew up together in Buras. And so you'll see when you visit the restaurant, on one wall we have my grandfather and my grandmother who loved each other so dearly. They were just the perfect couple, knew each other for 3 months and got married.
And your grandfather was Pappy, right? That's where the Pappies comes in, right?
So, we've got pictures of me on the shrimp boat growing up. And then on the other wall, we have pictures of Linda and her family, at Fort Jackson with all the kids. And it was just, it's been an amazing thing to see the way we've kind of created this little Buras. There's a lot of people who are from Buras that moved here and now work at Pappy's. I jokingly say that everyone that works for us is family, mostly literally, but also figuratively. But
right. And thankfully you brought all those great Buras recipes. I mean, Buras, best fishing on planet Earth, just an abundance of seafood as this region of Louisiana has. And you've kind of brought that know-how up this way. And it's really a treasure. I mean, my wife and I love it. I mean, we have little kids. So we are often y'all are so great about helping us get fed, getting in and out quick. We often will get takeout there. And I mean, everything I've had has been great, from po' boys to
a little bit to get there too. I mean,
I'm sure any new business
restaurant on this scale, you don't know what to expect. You put 5 people in the kitchen, and that ends up just slowing things down. And then you don't put enough people in the front, and until you get your feet up underneath you, it's really hard to say, okay, this is exactly how you do it. Even though we've my mom owned a catering business when she was younger. One of those things she did so that we could do, whatever we wanted. But it isn't the same. And we've been very, very grateful to have people in the community respond so positively to what we've been doing. Of course, anywhere you go, you're going to have naysayers and people that say, oh, I've had better roast beef, or I like Bears better than I like Pappy's. But that's
haters are gonna hate, and it's never as good as Mama's was 30 years ago, right? I mean, that you're competing against the ghost there, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's a great restaurant, the food's great, and you're doing the best you can. And I tell you, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I appreciate your candor, because one night my wife's order was not right. I like a po' boy dress. She does not. She cannot stand mayo. But y'all were so gracious and wonderful about how you handled that. Yeah, I mean, we didn't have to get mad about that and go blasting you on Facebook and saying, "Oh, they put mayo on my sandwich." It's but y'all handled that so great.
I think that's something that leads into what we were speaking about earlier. Is there's so much room for us to learn in life. This experience for us, I'm not going to lie and say that I'm, the most knowledgeable person about the restaurant business, but do I walk into work every day and learn something new? Yes. And my mother has taught me over the years how you respond to people. We never know what someone's going through on the other side of that door.
Sure.
So when they walk through that door, we treat them the way that they should be treated. We treat them like family. Hey, welcome to Pappy's. What can I get for you today? It's all about making everybody feel at home, because when you walk through those doors, we will treat you like family. You are pulling up a chair to Pappy's table.
And we've gone through a lot of people in these 3
Mm-hmm.
months. You know, I had another businessman come in the other night for dinner, and he's like, where do you find these employees? Like, they're nice to each other. They compliment each other. They're very nice to us.
It's kind of like the Chick-fil-A effect, but on a local level, right? I mean, there's a difference between a Chick-fil-A staff typically and other, similar fast food restaurants, right? I mean, they just have a better culture, it seems, and hiring practices to keep a quality, happy face in front of you. And you guys are doing that, right? But I love to hear what you're saying, Callie, about it being such a learning experience, because nobody knows everything about what they do. I mean, in my line of work as an injury attorney, I deal with some of the most brilliant, gifted surgeons on the planet. People that literally put Humpty Dumpty back together again when he falls off. I mean, just the most, literal brain surgeons, right? They are phenomenal. But they're lying if they tell you they know everything about every surgery, there's just too many contingencies in anything, right? So no matter what we do, we need to be humble and come up with that learning mentality.
And you said it right there, Parker, is being humble. I think that if life has taught me anything, it's humility. Learning that we are going to fall on our faces. And like I said, my mom always just taught us to pull ourselves up and put your best foot forward every time, because people cannot like your product, but they can't hate on your work ethic. And if you keep working, you get it right eventually. And I think that's what we've been able to do here at Pappy's is we're getting it right. I sit down and every day. I make my kitchen managers carry around spoons in their pockets. I'm like, you taste everything that you feed to your friends. Why wouldn't you do the same?
Great point. Well, Samantha Hassel here says Pappy's is family. I don't know if she's part of the literal family or. Samantha, thank you for tuning in and confirming what we're hearing. You mentioned humility and the learning process. Why don't you share with our viewers some of the lessons you've learned since you started this business?
Well, we told everybody in the beginning that we're very big-hearted people, and we've gone through some people that has really hurt our hearts, because you give them everything, you give them all of your deepness of your unconditional love, and so they take
advantage of it.
But
it hasn't turned us bitter. That's what we've learned is like people can hurt you and you can still be okay.
Right. But what I like is that I've always wanted to have a business that we could give people that have maybe some disabilities or maybe, things that nobody else has given them a chance. And I hope that our customers see that we are trying to give some people a purpose in life. And, with Facebook, it's really easy for people to be ugly nowadays. Ugly to people when they have disabilities.
Doesn't matter what it is. Personal, politics, and definitely their food, right? They're going to go griping about it.
They're behind the screen. And I hope that our customers that come in as our family see that we have given these people an opportunity. And in turn, we have been humbled because, they have just, it's beauty. And I feel that, leaving Rosaryville was hard for me. It had been part of our family's life for 9 years, working with the sisters. Then when they sold it, it was different. And God, I literally feel that God told me that you need to go do ministry out in the public. And I feel that when we got there and we started having the employees that were coming that needed jobs that haven't worked since COVID. And they were just so down on themselves, so down on luck, didn't have places to live. And as we've been here only 3 short months, you've seen
we've helped employees get back into their cars, get into homes, be more stable in their financial situations, be able to spend more time with their kids. It's whenever you do something, it's always a ripple effect,
Right.
And I think being 26 years old, I make a lot of mistakes. And I think
I do at 44, so I'd love to tell you that's going to stop in the next decade, but these gray hairs haven't made me any wiser. I hope you do better.
Because it's what reminds me that life is this continuum, and God has this purpose for us, and we'll never fully understand why things happen, But every day when something goes wrong, whether it's me burning a roux or, boiling crawfish for too long, because that has happened. And
Sure.
I sat there and I ate every single mushy crawfish. But,
But she's got it down pat.
You didn't boil it a second time, I bet.
Though, to expand your mind, to expand this wonderfulness that God's given us. And, I mentioned God a lot in this, but I can't not, because everything that we've done, we have been so blessed that
Sure.
He's given us the guidance that we have had. And, regardless of what you believe, it's amazing to know that we as humans have this special thing, and it is the connectiveness between us. No matter where you come from, no matter where you go to, you'll see in every community that there's just this beautiful love and appreciation that comes when you work together.
Yeah. Well, I love that you give God the credit, because of course he deserves it all, right? Everything we have comes from him. And I just commend you for your, being brave enough to say it, while we're here on the air. And it's Facebook. Somebody might not like that, and whatever.
That's okay.
They can get over it.
First Presbyterian Church, Ponchatoula. No.
I'm with you there. And look, I love so many churches of Ponchatoula, because I've got feet in different waters. I'm a lifelong Catholic, and I know you guys grew up Catholic, and it's so important to you from Rogerville and all that. But my wife is a diehard Baptist, so I've got a son who's going to start St. Joseph in the fall. But he goes to First Baptist Church on Sundays.
Right.
Wherever you're getting your Christianity, I'm cool with that. But I think it's just important that we listen to follow God and do our best, and read our Bible and say our prayers and do all that.
I get the Catholic Baptist struggle though. My fiance, she's from Mississippi, Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
And
tell us about how have you resolved it? Because 10 years in, I haven't figured that one out yet.
And you can't beat it. Aaron and Jenny, those are two people who also have made such a large difference in my life personally by Aaron stepping up and helping us when we first opened the coffee shop to be able to do whatever kind of carpentry work we needed.
Right.
Because that's what he was in a past life, was a carpenter. And Jenny just always being there to support our businesses and encourage me when I need it, and my fiance when she needs it, and just always be our #1 fans.
So cool.
It's just amazing, Parker. This community, no matter how many times, no matter how many people we name, it just simply boils down to the fact that this community, there's something different about it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Ponchatoula has a true sense of community that's rare. I mean, I've lived a few other places, whether it's Washington, D.C., New Orleans, Baton Rouge, whatever, and all of them have some redeeming, wonderful parts, right? But I haven't seen a sense of community like this anywhere I've been. Yeah. And folks that I talk to that have traveled a lot farther, wider, and longer, say the same thing. You mentioned, Callie, the coffee shop, all the help you're getting from family and friends, and to get this thing started. At 26, I mean, when you say 26, I'm like, wow, you're so wise beyond your years. And you're on your second business already that I know of. You may tell me you had a lemonade stand that we need to get into. But what are some things you learned? What are some lessons you learned from the coffee shop in that? And please, before we get to that, tell us a little bit about the coffee shop. So we've been talking about your restaurant, Pappy Stowaway Cafe, at the corner of Pine Street and 8th Street. Okay, that's best known around here as the Old Bootsies. But it's your second business at 26. You first had Stowaway Coffee House. So tell us a little bit about that. And then I'm going to want to follow up with lessons learned in business #1 that you're now applying in business #2. And of course, Suzette, the follow-up there is going to be, you've owned many other businesses, and we'd love to learn about, I'm just always a fan of that. When people are candid enough to share mistakes, and I make them every day, that's where we learn. I think it's so wonderful for our viewers to be able to hear a little bit about that, learn from it, because I'm hopeful people are watching this inspired by you that may be thinking about starting a business and realizing I don't have to wait till I'm a gray bearded 40-year-old. I don't have to wait till I'm rich. I don't have to be born wealthy. They see what you've done and hopefully get inspired. So tell us about the coffee shop, your first business, if that is your first, and some lessons you learned there.
So the day we opened the coffee shop, I was on a step ladder trying to figure out how the coffee machine worked. That's as simple as it is. I mean, Kim Zabby was waiting outside tapping on the window like, come on, let me in, you know?
Wow.
And it took a little while to still every day when I get a call from one of my workers and they're like, the espresso machine's broken. I'm like, I don't know how to fix this, but you know, you quickly become a robot machinist, as I like to call it.
Sure.
The espresso machines, and I've learned just amazing things about coffee, where it comes from, how it's farmed, how there's so many different types of farming, how you should be ethical when buying coffee, and that there's unethical coffee. I was like, I thought coffee was just coffee, but
yeah. So what? There's like a blood diamond version of coffee. I don't know about all this.
So when you order from your run-of-the-mill coffee shop, or I should say commercial coffee shop, they're most likely buying just a globally traded product. What we try to focus on is a direct trade coffee or a fair trade coffee, which means that the farmers that are getting this coffee to you are being paid a fair wage while harvesting those beans.
So you make a great point. Somewhere there's somebody growing a coffee bean, and that person's not unlike that Ponchatoula strawberry farmer, right? They've got a family, and they deserve to feed that family and school that family and clothe them. And if we don't ethically source our coffee, maybe that's not doable. Is that what you're saying?
Condition. I think about people all the time, what they're
clearly
doing, how they feel, you know, and it's as simple as sitting down eating a hamburger. I'm like, oh, wonder who farmed this beef. I'm just an inquisitive type person. So when I started looking into coffees, I saw that.
But clearly it stops with the person, though, because you're not thinking about the cow.
No.
Thank God, because I don't want Pappy's vegetarian, whatever. Keep serving the goodies you're selling.
Yes, you know, the person that is doing the farming is a, you know, important part of our societies. And so often we walk into a store, we grab what we need, and we go home and we consume. And I took a completely different approach. And this was a lot of what I learned living in Memphis too, of sustainability and being eco-friendly. So all of our coffee cups are biodegradable, and all of our coffee beans are either direct trade or fair trade. All of our syrups are made in the United States, and they're made in factories where their employees are paid fair wages. And, you know, I think it's just so important watching my mom as a single mom struggle to raise the 3 kids and never truly knowing it, but having the, you know, retrospection of knowing what happened then. We want to be able, that's the American dream, right? To be able to provide for all families, for everyone to be able to be happy and healthy and contribute to this amazing society that we have. And so learning at the coffee shop that, you know, having people there to sit and talk and listen is what made the difference. It's not a big, busy coffee shop. You don't have hundreds of people running in and out the door the entire time you're sitting there. You have a quiet space where you can sit and meet with friends and family and actually have a conversation, because how often do we resort to Facebook or texting or Twitter to be able to communicate our thoughts and feelings? It's that human connection which makes us alive.
Which kind of ties in with what you said about the restaurant and actually listening to your customer, because they're going through something that we know nothing about, and maybe a hot cup of coffee, you know, a delicious po' boy, whatever, can help make a crummy day a little less worse.
And exactly that, Parker. That's what
I get it. I came up working at Hi-Ho, and there was an amazing woman. Everybody around here just knew her as Miss Celeste. Her name was Celeste Alexander. And she worked at Hi-Ho since she was 13 years old, you know, till she retired. And unfortunately, she passed away. And you know, you guys can Google Miss Celeste. I've seen recently on Facebook, there's an old news story. But, you know, I was blessed to work with her and watch her in action, and just all about respect. You know, she didn't have to be, I mean, she was one of the most charming people you ever meet in your life. She had an abundance of talent. But my point was it all kind of stemmed from she was genuinely interested in people when they came in. It wasn't an act, but she listened and, just, I mean, look, we had the simplest menu in the world. It was just beef barbecue, pork barbecue, potato chips. This was long before potatoes, French fries, and fountain drinks made their debut at Hi-Ho. But it was amazing to see that in action. And I'm hearing a lot of that, I think, in how you run your coffee shop, how you run your restaurant. It's that's amazing. Now, Suzette, what about you? I want to put you in the crosshairs, Suzette, if you don't mind. What are some lessons you learned in earlier businesses that are now paying off, hopefully, in your restaurant and what y'all are doing now?
Biggest thing is to learn how to problem solve, treat your employees and your customers with the utmost respect. I never asked somebody to do something that I wouldn't stand right alongside and do with them. So I think that level of respect there, I found out was very important from the beginning. And just being kind. I mean, when you're kind to people, that's why we're so sensitive. Like, we take to heart, like, this is a horrible hamburger. I mean, I had to tell Callie, I said, please quit looking at Facebook, because she was just getting so down.
I cried one night because I was like, I really just want them to be happy. What can I message people? And I was like, how can I make this better for you? Tell me whatever you know that I don't. So that I can provide a better product for you.
Well, and I think food is a lot. It reminds me of the family business I grew up in, which is politics, right? And my family is so grateful this community has supported us 11 elections in a row. Dad and Bree have been, so well served by their constituents. We're really grateful for that. But one thing I learned in politics, my dad served as sheriff longer than anyone. He's the only 6-term undefeated sheriff ever, okay, in Tangipahoa. But you're never going to win them all, right? The most popular sheriff of all time on his best day got around 80% of the vote, right? That still means 1 in 5 guy was out. And that's just the ones, but people are going to talk.
The ones that voted, right?
Yeah, and you're only as good as your last, thing that you did, right? So, I mean, you could get a burger 10 times in a row, right? And maybe you get not even a thank you, but that last time you put mustard on it and they didn't like it, So I hear you. You're clearly a gentle soul and you take things to heart. You're sensitive, but just remember, you can't. Just like Daddy could never get all the votes, you're never going to win them all, right? I mean,
and I think that just comes from me knowing that there's so much in this life that we all have to offer. And every day when I wake up, I try to do better. That's what we're supposed to do, right? And sometimes we miss the mark, and sometimes it gets us down. But it's all about what you do about it the next day. It's all about your reaction to their reaction. How are you going to take this thing that makes you so upset and turn it into something so beautiful? I've been a fan of cooking since I was very young, and that's really in part to my grandfather. He was always in the kitchen whistling away, making his brews and, doing stew and fried cube steaks and, things that I truly, that make me happy in thinking back now at how we were raised as children in Buras. And I just want to be able to continue to learn about what makes something taste better. What can we do that puts this hamburger on this person's plate or this po' boy on this person's plate, and when they bite into it, they think, oh, that feels like home.
Right. Like
well, Miss Linda Brescher commented here, what a great family. Now she wants a po' boy.
Ready for you, Miss Linda.
Hearing you talk about Pappy's recipes has me hungry and ready to go home for dinner here.
Well, I watched Woodsie's, and that was one of our places. Me and my mom would go when the kids were in all that
stuff. The Wednesday night meatball special.
And I mean, it was such a place that people could just go, and you could see they were happy because they were just eating food,
Right.
And I feel blessed we're there, And I just give a shout out to my youngest daughter, Emily, and her boyfriend, Justin, that did come.
They stepped up.
They were here in January. Emily sat out this year with COVID. She's a senior at Rhodes College in Memphis. And
great school.
They came here and they've helped run the coffee shop for the last 5 months. And they're going to be leaving again July 1st, where she can go finish up her last year of college. But, family is just so important to us. And that God put us in a position to try this here at Happy's. And also have family that helped us in the other business. We couldn't have done it.
There's rarely a day that you'll step into Pappy's and not see my fiance right there at the cash register saying,
Sure.
"Hi, welcome to Pappy's," because that's what family is. We don't get married for another 6 months. And she's been doing this since she helped us open these businesses. She's been in there and working hard because she believes. I think it's
well, she better, because it sounds like if you join this family, you better be ready to step up and serve. And I'm not hearing a whole lot of sleeping in on Saturdays in this family.
When you work hard, when you put your best foot forward, it encourages others to do the same. It takes a lot to be able to do what we do, but it makes it so much easier knowing that when people watch you, they're inspired. They're inspired to do greater, bigger things.
You're so right. And this comment here by Samantha again proves it. She says it's an honor to work for you at Pappy's, and it's been the most amazing opportunity. But that's exactly what you're talking about. She's seeing you in action. That's really cool. Well, let me ask you this. Callie, you mentioned that you have ambitions to do this homeless project, which sounds amazing. And what I really love about, not only you have that ambition and you want to do it here locally in the Hammond area, which is music to my ears, but it sounds like you're not waiting until that grand day when you have a ribbon cutting to get started. You're using your current vehicle in Pappy's to do that good work. But my question to each of you was, if you didn't have to make a living, if you didn't have to pay the bills through your restaurants, your coffee shops, your other businesses, what would each of you do?
We talk about this very frequently. I think Linda jokes with us a lot that we do things because it feels good, not because it's going to make us rich. And my mom's always been that way. She's like, at one point I was like, oh, I'm going to be a spiritual counselor. She's like, you just love choosing things that aren't going to make you money, huh? And I was like, it's your fault.
I'm married to a social worker, so I get it. I appreciate it. The world needs that.
I think, working with the needy, working with single mothers, working with, people who are just experiencing hard times in our life is what we were specifically put here to do. My mom has always been a youth leader, the choir director, the PTA person, the Chamber of Commerce person, the Rotary leader, anything that she could do and be able to enhance her community, that's what she was going to do.
But this 3 months has been, it's challenging. Parker, when you start a business, it's challenging.
Well, I don't know how hard that is. I mean, I know it's hard to run a little law firm with 10 people, but to have multiple businesses and 30 plus employees and naysayers on Facebook and beyond, that's the hat goes off to you.
Is that we feel like sometimes I feel really discouraged. I'm like, God, did we make the right choice? And then I'm thinking, okay, so everybody got paid though. So, everybody is people are making a living here and getting to experience people that they're not made fun of. They're not judged. We don't look at what they look like, what they, the customers that come in. It's like, we don't care. We just, when they come in, I see they feel the love.
And that's such a great point, because it's circling back to my little experience at Hi-Ho. I look back at the Hi-Ho alumni, right? And there's so many people. I wasn't the only one paying attention to Miss Celeste and these folks that were doing great things. Mr. JT Gazzardo, John Gazzardo, who owned the place, was a wonderful man. He treated us so well. But you're leaving that legacy, right? These folks that work for you, even if they're there just a little while, are learning something different. They're seeing the way a class act runs a business. They're seeing how a family that loves one another and community and God lives. And you just never know where that goes, right? You mentioned the ministry through your business earlier, right? But that's what you've got, a sort of ministry through example,
Absolutely. There's someone that we can look back, and there's always someone in our lives that we can pinpoint where they made the difference, right? If we think it's really hard enough. My aunt always, she's a professional speaker, and she always ends her speeches with a poem, and it ends basically, you never know when someone might care, and you never know how that's going to make a difference, basically, is what it says.
Yeah.
And it's just such a lovely idea to think that everything we do in this life does mean something, no matter how often we put down on what we do, how we do it. It's all important. It's all important to this beautiful life that we've been given.
Yeah, so well said. Well, I've kept you about an hour, and I promised I'd get you out of here on time. But before we do, what else would you like to share? Is there anything else on your heart, your head, just anything at all you'd love to share with our viewers?
I mean, one thing I would like to share is that, if you have a dream, try to take it. And it's hard financially, but do something good. Do something that makes you feel good. Do a job that doesn't make you feel like you're going to work every day. Be kind. Be supportive. Ponchatoula has exploded with new businesses, boutiques, food, ice cream, everything. We have a lot to offer right here in Ponchatoula. Support your local people, because without you supporting them, they're not going to be here. So support us.
That's such a great point. As I mentioned, before, I spend a lot of my nights these days at the ballpark, right? I mean, we just got notice we were rained out for today, but I was there last night. I'll probably be back tomorrow. And, the thing here is these local businesses you're talking about are the ones that are sponsoring those teams, that are helping these kids get what they need, that are handing out food to the homeless, that are, if you got extra crawfish, maybe not the mushy ones, but, you heading down to Restoration House or any of these places that serve folks, you mentioned helping single mothers. I mean, local businesses feed that, right? So when you get the chance to shop local, please do that, because it's great advice. Those dollars don't leave this community. They stay here and they sponsor needs.
My response is mostly the same to my mother's. Is it's so important that when you have families or businesses that come into this area, that you embrace them. We're never all going to be perfect. There's so much time that we have in this world to be ugly or mean, and I think that if we spent more of that time loving and caring and supporting, that we'd all be a little bit happier. The world would run a little bit smoother.
Amen.
And people would speak Ponchatoula's name from the rooftop. That's what we all want.
Very well said, Callie. Suzette Callais, I can't thank y'all enough for being here. You've shared so much wisdom. Your story is truly inspiring. And I'll just add one tidbit, because I agree with 100% of what those ladies said. And I'll say this, Kelly Wells, if you're watching, embrace the new people in town, whether it's the folks from Plaquemines Parish, the Chalmatians. I mean, we wouldn't have Coach Hank winning football games if it wasn't for new guys. I mean, like, my family's been here well over 100 years, and we're proud of that. But sometimes that new in town person was a 100-year icon at their old place, like Suzette's family, right? So embrace the new folks that come in. If somebody wants to do business here in Ponchatoula, let's support them, because like we mentioned at the top of the show, CJ Skander, there's been so many wonderful people that came to town. And once upon a time, all of us, we're new kids in town, or our grandfathers or great grandfathers or whatever. So ladies, thank y'all for being here. You're truly inspiring. To our viewers, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week, Ponchatoula Live, and we hope you have a great week and weekend.